Hello, welcome to the Yoga Lawyer Show. I think it's our 11th episode now.
11.
And today we were going to talk about privacy and a little bit about the Facebook Cambridge Analytica issues that have been happening in recent news. That's what we're talking about.
Privacy.
So let's talk about privacy first, and we can kind of lead into the other stuff. It's interesting, I don't know if our viewers out there realized that there really isn't a constitutional right to privacy. And this is sort of where all this, the Facebook issues come from, is this inherent right to privacy, which we all feel like we have. I think it's a natural right. It's a right that people feel is inherent in their existence as humans, that we have a right to privacy. But it's not enumerated in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or any of the subsequent amendments to the Constitution.
Yeah, so what that means is that the word privacy is not present anywhere in the Constitution. The actual word privacy.
Yes, or in any of the amendments, the Bill of Rights, any of it. Now, it's implied in a lot of the amendments.
Yeah, in a couple.
Like, for instance, the Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable search and seizure, and inherent in that is sort of this idea that that's because we have a right to privacy. Privacy in our own homes, like there's case law regarding the Fourth Amendment that talks about, unreasonable search and seizure and that sort of right to privacy that we have, or the right that we have in our own homes to feel secure and not be subject to unreasonable searches or seizures.
And then the Fifth Amendment, the right against self-incrimination. So privacy is kind of protected there.
Yeah, the right to be private in what you say. And then also, like we were saying before we went on air about the First Amendment, sort of the same thing, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and the First Amendment sort of implies a right to privacy in our thoughts. And then again in the 14th Amendment, there's, that's where we find the Equal Protection Clause and due process, the right to life, liberty, and property, which again sort of implies this right to privacy. But kind of the evolution of privacy laws, what we found is that it sort of came with the dawn of technology, going back to the late 1800s when photography started to become, something that you would see more and more often. That's when privacy started to come up as an issue because people not necessarily want to be photographed. And then later, with the advent of telephones and the fact that telephones at first were shared lines, kind of like party lines, and the operators could even listen in on conversations. So it's funny that over time, privacy has become an issue when technology
has created more interaction between users.
And we're seeing that again here. So now all of a sudden we've got Facebook. Before it was, telephones and photographs, and now we've got the interwebs.
Facebook, where you put down everything about yourself, everything you're doing, everything you have done, everything you want to do. So, and that's just readily available to all of your friends and followers.
So it is interesting that every time technology seems to improve or be advanced, that's again when privacy comes up. Because I think, as humans, we do feel like we have this right to privacy, and we do. And just because a right isn't enumerated in the Constitution doesn't mean it's not a right it's a right that we don't have. We do have that right.
The Ninth Amendment.
Yeah, the Ninth Amendment. Katie pointed that out. The Ninth Amendment specifically says that. Look, I've got my little handy pocket Constitution.
Everyone can have one of those.
I would highly recommend carrying one of these around. But the Ninth Amendment actually says that the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So the fact that privacy isn't specifically enumerated in this document doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And that's sort of the foundation for the Facebook hearings. I mean, it goes even beyond that. And the hearings themselves seem to go beyond even what they started out being about.
Some of the senators are implying that, where they're asking if Mark Zuckerberg, because they're interviewing him, they're asking if he would have a reasonable expectation of privacy in his own Facebook profile, if he should expect to have private conversations with other people, and would he be willing to tell them about, and they're getting a little ridiculous, honestly.
Some of the questions did get a little ridiculous, just kind of beyond the scope of what the hearings were set out to do, which I'm not even sure exactly what that is.
I'm not really sure. Kelly and I were talking about this. We think it's more of a private matter, maybe, between Facebook and
Cambridge Analytica and Facebook and its users. I'm not really sure why the federal government is involved. I mean,
maybe because of the FTC, or So privacy is generally protected through statute, and the government does have certain acts that might involve it in this, but I'm not really sure about it.
I don't know what the goal is here. If the goal is to regulate Facebook further, or to, come up with some kind of other laws that regulate the internet in general. There's always this sort of pull, because we want to be able to freely use the internet and to use Facebook and not necessarily have the government coming in and telling us what we can and can't put on our Facebook page. But we also, most of us probably don't read the fine print when we create a Facebook account. And none of the things that Facebook did in the Cambridge Analytica issue were beyond the bounds of their agreement with their users. I mean, when you sign up, you check a box that you understand that your information will be used. So they didn't breach any kind of agreement with their users, but I guess Cambridge Analytica did maybe breach its agreement with Facebook. Right? You were telling me something about this, that they went beyond what they're supposed to do or what Facebook conceived they would be doing, as compared to like the Obama campaign when they used Facebook in a similar way back in
Right. So the way I
2008.
understand it is that Facebook set up its own regulations for itself. I think it was 2013.
Oh, was that the 2012 campaign?
I think so.
Okay.
So I think they made these regulations with themselves. I'm not sure on the date, but I feel like it was 2013.
We'll just go with that.
They basically said that they weren't going to do certain things or try to get certain information or sell your personal information to other companies, do that sort of thing. So they made their own guidelines for themselves and then agreed to it. So they made like a contract with their users, I guess, saying that they wouldn't do certain things. And the Obama campaign, because this isn't a new thing, campaign to use our information so that they can target us with their campaign ads and that sort of thing. So the Obama administration is kind of known for its use of Facebook and how it utilized that as a main resource during its campaign. But it complied with Facebook's own regulations through that regulation thing that I was just talking about that Facebook made with itself.
Okay.
The problem here is that Cambridge Analytica didn't. So they went beyond the regulations. They started selling our information to outside sources that violated the different regulations that Facebook had agreed to. And then they got caught.
And so Facebook was upset. But it does seem like you were saying kind of a private matter between Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, and maybe with Facebook's users who felt violated. But it's, again, when the federal government comes in, I guess it's a balance, because it's like, do we always need the big daddy government to come in and tell us what we should be posting or seeing on the internet? Or is it something that we can self-regulate and that companies like Facebook can self-regulate? It just seems like that's kind of a slippery slope in some sense.
I'm not sure what part the government is trying to play in it.
I don't know if there's anything that's going to come of these hearings, is the question, because it doesn't seem like there was any kind of resolution. I don't know. Are they done? I'm
I don't
not
know
sure
what
if
they're seeking.
And I know that Zuckerberg himself stopped short of suggesting that there be some kind of regulations.
I think the reason that they kind of got involved is because of the Mueller investigations, and then the fact that Steve Bannon, who has a significant position in the White House, was the vice president, had a significant position in the White House, was also previously a vice president of Cambridge Analytica. So that might be...
Well, and I've heard, because, I try to, in my Facebook feed, have all kinds of people that share different political views from me, and I've seen some suggestion in some of the local political groups that I'm a member of about why is this coming up now when it didn't come up when Obama's campaign used the information, and that suggesting it's because of this anti-Trump feel. But
it's because they complied with Facebook's regulations.
That's the difference, is that Cambridge Analytica took the information and used it in a way that Facebook was not okay with, where I guess the Obama administration didn't do that.
So what happened is Cambridge Analytica went too far, whereas Obama did use our information in that way for campaigning the same way that Cambridge did, but they stopped at a certain point, and Cambridge didn't stop at that
They
point.
then sold the information to third parties?
So Obama used it for directing their campaign ads and trying to target certain sects of the population, whereas Cambridge sold it to other parties.
And things just got kind of crazy in the last election.
I don't think we're actually certain where all of our information went. We don't know who has it. I mean, I'm sure someone knows who has it, but the public doesn't know.
No.
There's some backdoor investigations going on and stuff between Cambridge Analytica and Congress.
And how many people, you know, when you sign up for Facebook, or how many of us are aware of how our information is used? I mean, do we even think about it? Does anybody read the fine print?
The terms and conditions when you sign up?
We don't. And so how much of that onus, that blame, is on us as individuals, and how much of...
For just being lazy.
Yeah, I mean, don't we have a responsibility to protect our own privacy? But that being said, I wanted to read a quote I printed out from Mark Zuckerberg, because I'm just trying to wrap my head around this whole thing, and like, to the extent, how much do we need the government to come in and regulate, and how much do we need Facebook to tell us what we should be viewing or not viewing? So this is what he said. You know, he came in, he's trying to take responsibility for his actions, and he says, it's not enough to just connect people. We have to make sure that those connections are positive. It's not enough to just give people a voice. We need to make sure that people aren't using it to harm other people or to spread misinformation. And it's not enough to just give people control over their information. We need to make sure that developers that they share it with protect their information too. Across the board, we have a responsibility to not just build tools, but to make sure that they're used for good.
Okay, so my problem with that is not this part where it's saying that...
About the harming others?
Yeah, that's fine.
I
like,
agree.
We don't want to harm others. We don't want to spread misinformation. And this part where it's not enough to give people control of their information.
We need to make sure that developers protect their information too, the developers they share it with. And that's where I think Cambridge Analytica strayed from what the Obama administration had done, was that the developers didn't protect their information, whereas the Obama administration did in their use of it. But where is it that you have the issue with it? I think I'm going to guess, but to our hundreds of subscribers out there.
Hundreds.
100 of subscribers.
We hit 100.
I think we're like 108 now, actually.
Yeah.
So make sure to subscribe, by the way. But I'm guessing it's this part that you have an issue with.
Yeah, the positive and the good.
Yes. Maybe I'll post this, but maybe we'll post the quote. But the part that we take issue is with when he said we have to make sure that those connections are positive, and we have to make sure that the tools that we build are used for good. And what is the issue?
Define good.
Yeah, like, who decides what's positive and what's good? And now is Facebook becoming the arbiter of what is good for us? And my good might be different than your good.
And the way that sounds crazy. And you're like, what? No, good is good, bad is bad. Good and bad are different. But we were thinking about different examples of a good that may be good for us but not good for you. For instance, like veganism.
Oh, yeah.
You're a vegan.
Veganish. I'm veganish.
She's veganish. I'm vegetarianish. And my dad is a full-blown meat eater. A meal's not a meal without some kind of meat-based protein source. We disagree. I think that vegetarianism is good, and he thinks that I'm out of my mind.
And so, does Facebook going to come in and say, well,
okay, but meat eating is good.
Or the opposite, meat eating is bad, and so you can't post that, on Facebook. We're going to take out any references to meat eating because we've decided based on these reasons that meat eating is bad. And you could honestly make that argument, but it's ridiculous. We don't need Facebook or the government to tell us what's good for us and what's not. So where do we draw the line?
But we also don't need that to be tailored. Like, I don't want Facebook to come in and only show me connections that are positive. I want to have some adversity. I want some opposition. I want to see what other people are saying. So what Facebook does, the way it works, is they create these echo chambers, and then you're in a group of people who are like-minded and they agree with you. So then you think that your way is the only way. It's the right way. And that's the way it should be done, when there are other ways. And what Facebook's saying is that they only want to connect you to people who agree with you. They only want to make your connections positive, when you can have bad connections and grow from that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure if Zuckerberg was here, he wouldn't say, well, he would probably take a little bit of issue with our interpretation of his words. At the same time, what he's saying could create a slippery slope, and that's what we're noticing, is that who decides what's good and what's positive and what's not? And how do we combat this echo chamber thing that's been happening, for lack of a better way to say it? I mean, because that is what happens in our news feeds.
I think the biggest thing is, now that we're aware, now that it seems like most people are aware of this tailoring of the internet to our personal experience, are we okay with it? Because I know personally that I'm cool with getting advertisements for things that I like. Like, I don't want an advertisement for a skateboard. I don't want a skateboard. But if I get an advertisement for something that I like...
It is kind of strange when sometimes I feel like I just think about something and then the next thing I know the advertisement's in my feed. Like,
yeah, but
does Facebook know my thoughts? Like, how does it know that I like those shoes?
But so we're aware of it now, but are we okay with it?
I don't know. To what extent? And if you're not okay with it, why not just stay off Facebook? I mean, that's part of it.
I know it's the worst argument. Like, oh, if you don't want it, don't go there.
Yeah.
But still, like, yeah, if you don't want it, don't go
there. Well, if
there.
you don't want it, then don't check the box to the terms and conditions and sign up. I don't know. I really don't. I don't have all the answers. That's part why we do this. Give us your feedback. Give us your thoughts on these things. But I just felt like maybe it's going a step too far, when you say that we're going to make sure that the tools are used for good and that connections are positive, because who decides what's good and what's positive? And one person's good might be someone else's bad, and vice versa. But now to say that you're going to keep it, from causing harm and spreading misinformation, okay, that might be something we could get on board with. But
how do you do that?
But even that, who decides what's harmful and what's misinformation? I mean, I think the biggest problem here is that, we as humans have to take responsibility for our own intellect, our own beings, and not rely on someone else to do this for us. And maybe we're too dumb. I don't know. I hate to say that.
I don't think we're dumb. I think we're lazy.
Yeah, laziness might be a better way to say it. Because we don't need someone else to come in and tell us what's harmful and what's not. Why don't we just, combat our laziness and do a little of our own research and not just believe everything we see or hear. And a lot of it is because it's that self-fulfilling, like where you see something and then you see something on Facebook that agrees with your position on it and you feel better. It's like, oh, yes, that agrees with me. This echo chamber. Yeah. Rather than questioning our own beliefs and our own judgments, which is really the key to everything. I mean, to being happy, healthy humans, we should question our own judgments and beliefs, question the voice in our head that's telling us that our way is the right way, because there's always another way to look at things. Always. So tell us what you think. I mean, Katie, do we have anything else on this subject?
I don't think
We've pretty much covered it for today. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Let's hear some feedback. And also, we want to do more of these shows where we're talking about legal issues, legal topics. Today we kind of got into some con law and privacy. If there's other topics like that you'd like to hear us chat about.
Con law topics.
Yeah, Katie loves con law.
I love con law.
She's getting ready to go to law school.
I am.
Most likely in the fall. So we'll leave it at that for today. So be sure to subscribe. Let's get that subscriber toll up to 109, 110. And of course, as always, leave comments and feedback, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching the Yoga Lawyer video.